Jake's got to go somewhere.
Oh, good. Okay.
I think. Right. Okay. Now, I'm just going to ask if there's any burning issues of staff that they want to have a quick yarn to, but we are going to get a lot more information in the paper that comes to us next week. So whether you want to just have a yarn to them on the quiet to allay any of your fears, or if you've got something you want to bring up now, you're more than welcome to. But I think we're going to get a lot more response after these guys have heard what they've heard today next week. So does anyone want to? Councillor Peters?
Thank you. Keen to explore further the opportunity with IntelliGrow that was spoken about by Darren today. Is there anything further on that you could enlighten us?
Come to you an interim solution. It will talk to you about the opportunities, how we would deliver the interim solution, whether it's through the existing contract and a variation or whether it's going to the market. And we will talk to that comment. I mean, the point I would note there, and Darren confirmed it, is he's a minimum of 12 months to get a consent, and then he then potentially only has a commercial opportunity for a short number of years for the volume. So it's not a big commercial opportunity in terms of getting a rate of return for any investment that he makes. So it's challenging.
Okay. Councillor Moore?
Sorry, the 12 months. You mentioned, my understanding was 12 months after obtaining a consent, as opposed to 12 months total.
No, it was after obtaining a consent.
Well, I might be wrong. What I heard was it could take him up to 12 months to get the consent. Did you hear that differently? Or?
12 months to get it up and running was my understanding, but you need a consent before getting up and running.
Yes.
And it, yeah, and
we can check that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you would launch into your building or whatever your construction program is.
Yeah. So if it took a year for consent, so we're looking, still a couple of years down the track. Yeah. Microphone.
The interim solution is only really for up to the 27 to 29 period. So it's only really, it could be as short as a 3-year window.
Thank you.
Okay, does that more or less allay Councillor Scandrett?
I guess it's a pity the other presentation that Mr. Doreen brought and has on the slides wasn't actually the one he talked to, because looking at that, with the pictures on the page 23 and 26 or whatever, it's got big covered areas with front-end loaders, etc. So in an interim situation, can we get some idea of if that would be a solution in the short term with regards to kind of containing the odour, which is obviously the main issue here?
So in terms of the structure, the main challenge with the odour is if the window... There we go. That's right. Yeah, we're on. Green for go. Yeah, look, the main challenge is the structure of the windrow and the makeup of the windrow to get the air into that processing. If you can achieve that, then you go back to what the lady said about aerobic. You get aerobic composting, and you'll get a compost smell, but not the nastier, more pungent smell. So in terms of the structures, it's a large area at Bromley to cover that whole area. The structure would also have to allow the plant and equipment, whether it was a windrow turner or mobile plant, to get in and actually turn the windrow. But the key here is not just to lock the building and make it airtight, it's actually to process the windrow correctly so you don't get the odour in the first place. So that's really the focal point, and that's the challenge from the tunnels, that they fundamentally aren't getting enough of the processing into the material at stage 1. So when we bring it outside, that's where we've had the majority of the odours coming from the maturing of the stockpiles outside. So that's really what we want to avoid. Putting them in a tunnel outside, I don't think would fundamentally solve the issue.
Councillor Cotter?
I'm just thinking, Mr Mayor, because we've been down this track quite intensely previously, I think 2018, when we looked at covering it, it might be a good idea to circulate that report to councillors to have a look at prior to next week's meeting, so that we know that we've been down that track and we had some costings, including we looked at that sprung technology as well, I believe. I just think it might be a good idea, so we're not actually going over all that again. It doesn't mean people can't pick it up as an option, it just means we've got the information.
Just get it back in front of our eyes.
Yes. Yeah.
Alrighty. Oh, Councillor Johansson. Oh, sorry, Councillor Harrison Hunt was before you. And he's bigger than you, yeah.
Just a question, just for public knowledge, because it has come up quite a lot in their submissions. What are we currently doing in the space of encouraging or educating our public to compost at home? Okay, so we can provide that next week? Great. The next question was on the feasibility of Hans's submission around using the heavy rail network, potentially to go to Cape Valley, if there is any rail networks that go out those ways. What's the feasibility of it? Is one of the questions I had.
There's a couple of things there. One, you would need, obviously you'll need the railhead infrastructure, which will no doubt have a landing point somewhere in Christchurch, if not more than one. But you would need the equivalent at the other end to take the containers off.
Of course.
The other issue would be the availability of containers and having, you need basically double containers in the system as well. So by way of example, we used to send glass to the furnace in Auckland by train, but that was discontinued because the capacity on the railway is limited. So anything that's regarded as a waste or a less paying product doesn't take as much priority as the other freight. So there's capacity as well from Kiwi Rail. Could they cope with however many containers 60,000 tonnes of compost would be?
Yep. Okay. The next question is around Darren's submission from IntelliGrow, and he did talk about an expedition of consent with ECAN. What are the? I mean, it sounds like a pretty special case to get an emergency consent done for 60,000 tonne. Can you elaborate a bit more on that, on the how likely it is to be able to get something like that?
No, I think we need to get advice from the regulatory department. I mean, these sort of things, as you say, are not common practice.
Yep.
If a facility, was taken out of action or burnt down, then there might be a process you could go through to bring something back online. But this is not quite the same scenario. Yeah, we've got a major problem, we want to solve it, but we still have a processing facility, albeit with the challenges it's producing.
So there, other than the advice that you're going to look for,
Yeah.
there is a real potential that it won't actually be allowed. Okay. And sorry, Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple of
You're not sorry at all,
Thanks.
you're just going on and on.
yeah. I'm just trying to nut these out because there's going to be a lot of public questions
Go
around
for your
these
life, mate. No, I'm
and the
winding you up.
feasibility. And there was one more. I was trying to find it. If we can get some advice back on that Nelson Council deputation from Tammy. She said that there's now Nelson's doing some alternative things outside of this. That'd be great. Thank you.
Councillor Johansson.
Yeah, I'm not sorry, by the way.
You're right.
Thank you. I was particularly interested in getting a more detailed response to Te Mana Ora's submission, particularly where in their submission on page 68, they talk through what we've done, the changes that we've made since the non-compliance, and I mean they sort of talk about the screening process therefore has greater potential to cause more odours than previous. They talk about the fines that have been done, say there's no assessment of the potential for odour from land spreading the fines and any contribution this may make to odour. They talk about the tailings increased to 70% as the volume of fines is reduced to 30, and also that the volume of tailings increased 70% of the material compared to 50 previously. They go on to talk about the time in the tunnels, and I guess it just struck me as quite alarming that the changes that we made when we got the abatement notice have possibly made the problem worse, which would kind of be backed up with the complaints that we've been getting and the increased notices of non-compliance. So are we going to have a more detailed sort of response to the quite technical concerns that they've raised?
We can provide that, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I wonder if we need to make some interim decisions around what we've done with the existing modifications, what our role is as council versus the operator. So I think it would be quite helpful just to have a really good response to what being said. I'm really interested in what's happening with the pre-treasables. We've got a former council staff member who used to work in this department saying that that would have a significant impact on reducing the odour in terms of the risk of the odour from the pre-treasables. We've got PDP saying they don't see that as being something that would help. How can we resolve that difference that people have got around the pre-treasables?
The putrescible situation it goes back to the processing. If you were feeding the plant with a green waste stock, you would have a much different overall odour profile. So the fundamental challenge is because it's food only and green waste only. It's the feedstock that goes into the system that is the challenge. So I'm not sure what clarity are you looking for?
So if we said to people, we'll no longer take putrescibles, so you just put that in the red bin or compost it at home, whatever, or down the food incinerator, for those lucky enough to have those, what contribution would that make to reducing the risk of the odour?
I mean, the answer I can give you is to say we'll get advice on it, but the reality is that you would have challenges associated with would the public go through that behaviour change. So if we instructed them to say, don't put putrescible in the green bin, put it in the red bin, a certain percentage would adhere to that instruction. It's very much the case that if you've got putrescible material mixed in a compost, then that is a more difficult feedstock to process and to manage. So the less putrescible that's in it, the better the odour profile will become. But it's not a technical, there's not a specific technical answer to that. It's just a fact that this waste stream on its own, as green waste, has got a much different process and odour profile than if you put food waste or putrescible waste in amongst it.
Okay, so you can talk offline with Yanni with that if you like. And
we can do, yeah.
And
Well, I think the public are kind of the ones that need the answer, right? Because it's something that they've repeatedly raised.
Yeah, okay, but one of the things that I think is, and from the little bit that I've done down with Living Earth, having crucibles in it makes far better compost, far better. I know that comes with the odour problem, and I think, I might be wrong, someone correct me, that the government's direction is what we were doing was actually very good. We had food waste mixed in with our green waste. The way we were doing our other recycling stuff was good. It was sort of a model that everyone wanted. It wasn't working down at Bromley so we had to change it, but we were heading in the right direction of what the government were looking for, and green waste and food waste mixed together was part of what they were after. Am I right, or tell me if I'm wrong, please?
No, you're right. The government's strategy, as it stands at the moment, is reliant on curbside collection. It's not reliant on food waste going a separate direction. So it's focused on getting waste out of landfill, and it's reliant on curbside collections to achieve that. So therefore, the efficiency is to put both of them into the one bin. And therefore you get a more efficient, and you do get a better compost, but you get a different odour profile.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So are we going to, sorry, just
You carry on.
in terms of John Mackey's submission, which had a number of points in it, are we able to get a more detailed sort of response to that whole issue of waste incinerators, what that would do for the wastewater treatment plant, etc.? I just didn't, be quite good just to understand what we may be able to do. I guess at a higher level, very interested in what we can do locally in terms of the composting, individual action to reduce green waste going into the bin.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, put that out there. And then the kind of final question, the two questions from me, two final questions. One is, I was very interested in the canary and how we're monitoring the impact. And I mean, I don't know, out of all the submissions, is there any sort of technology or measurements that we can put in place, recognising again the health submission that talked about the existing impact on local residents over time? Is there anything we can do from a health point of view to measure what's going into the environment more so than what we're currently doing now? Whether it's the use of technology, birds, I mean, whatever.
I mean, technology is used, for example, to monitor sewer gas, and the main constituent here is hydrogen sulfide. So you can get detectors that can monitor that, and they can be based on handheld equipment, or they can be deployed in the field. But I'm not aware of an odour system that would detect sort of methane and any other constituent parts that would be in the odour profile from a compost site. So there is equipment out there that is used for hydrogen sulfide monitoring, but that's not necessarily a gas that would be in sulfur. It would come from eggs or plasterboard or that sort of thing. But that's not normally, a high proportion of what would be in the organics profile.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Okay, you got another one more. Have you?
Yeah, and I mean, again, probably more for the discussion, but the idea of doing some sort of community survey about the health impact is sort of something I just want to sort of raise. But the final question was around the timing. So a number of people have said just do it as soon as possible. You've heard the stories from the submitters who are impacted, and particularly the local community board as well. So we're currently proposing to consult on the additional funding if it's required as part of the LTP. But what would stop us from doing that consultation earlier? And I'm noting that the mayor, I think, was keen not even to do any more consultation, which I would support. But if we do have to consult on that funding, is there a way that we can do that sooner so that we can put an interim solution in place sooner rather than waiting for the LTP?
I think once you've seen the content of the papers on the 6th of December, you'll be in a more informed position at that point to then work out what is the timeline then for the approval of whatever the solutions happen to be. So, I don't want to stray into the procurement side just now, but fundamentally the interim solution is two-part. There's the peak season solution, which we're working on just now, and we've made some operational changes now. And then the interim solution will be subject to your decision as to whether or not you want to vary the contract with the existing supplier for the solution that we'll describe to you, or whether you want to go down a different route to the open market. And we'll also include an option as well as to, well, how could you quit the site immediately? But that will be something that will involve, the key to quitting the site immediately is, well, where do we transfer the material? Where do we take it to from the collection routes to then consolidate it and send it to the landfill? So we'll give you that information as part of that paper.
Okay, and lastly, Tyler, please.
Kia ora. Just one question is around option 5, and going off the submissions, obviously there's a heavy city, I guess, what's the word I'm trying to use here, end of the day? Preference, thank you very much, in comparison and contrast to Bromley's views. And I would probably understand that there may be some pessimism in thinking that there is a very low risk in the offensive odours coming from the OPP through option 5. If possible, would you be able to provide an insight, not now, don't have to now, at the meeting, around the process of how that's going to happen? Is everything going to be internal, etc., etc.? I think that would probably alleviate a lot of people's thoughts, particularly in the Bromley communities, even though I do understand that they want it off. But just something to take with you, just to talk about the process and how that happens, because it was a bit ambiguous for a lot of the community around how that is done.
Yeah, we can describe what that stage 1 processing would look like. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, we can describe that in the
And how it's moved, because I had some community talk to me about, for example, the truck movements, taking it off site, and the potential of a trail of smell going through local roads, etc.
Yeah, no, we can definitely talk to that in the report. And to clarify, with option 5 for stage 1 processing, it's all completed indoors, if that was to be the option. But yeah, we can go into more detail on that. It's good to hear feedback from yourself and the community that there was some not full understanding of the proposal.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, and just one last question for me now that you've said it. When you said one of the options that'll come forward to us will be where you take it to do something with it before you take it to Cape Valley, for argument's sake. Is that what you mentioned?
No, I think what we're saying is that at the moment the options talk about Cape Valley in the sense of it being a disposal site.
Yes, but did you allude to where we would have to take it to be able to get it there? Did you mention that?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the curbside routes need to deliver the material somewhere. So at the moment they take it to the OPP, the small loads go in, we consolidate it, and then so a lot of the options are reliant on still using the OPP as effectively the transfer station or the stage 1 processing point. So if we were to quit the OPP, we would need to find other transfer options.
Surely we'd just take it to the 3 transfer stations.
We would, but there's a risk profile that would come with that, and we'll express that to you in the paper.
Yeah, we touched upon that in June, and we'll touch upon it again in the next report, that if we were to use one of the 3 transfer stations, given those facilities aren't enclosed, it increases our odour risk and spreads it across 3 locations rather than 1.
But if it's gone in one day, as you know, if you're doing your compost at home, it doesn't smell for a couple of weeks afterwards. If they're emptying the pit every day like they do at the moment, that shouldn't be a problem in my view. But just think about it and come back to me. That's cool. Okay, right. Karakia time.
Well, I had one, Tom.
Sorry, did you have a question, Aaron?
Yeah, sorry, I put my hand up. I'm not sure if it's showing on your screen.
No, it didn't. Sorry.
Do we still have time? Or have
No,
you guys
sorry.
gone?
No, we're running right out of time. Just
Send it through to. If you send it through to Samantha, we'll make sure it's answered.
okay. Righto.
Yeah, it's not public, so it doesn't matter.